Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another very interesting custom knife overview and presentation to share with you guys. This is the Richard Rodgers Q+. I am absolutely ashamed of myself for not knowing who this person is. This is somebody that I am realizing I should have been very familiar with for a very long time. He is the gentleman behind the CRKT CEO. That is hardly what he's most famous for. On Arizona Customs, his work dates back to at least 2002, and it would not surprise me if he has been making knives for much longer. The Q model is one that is very, very popular amongst custom knife enthusiasts, and the Q Plus is even more sought after. I'm finding out that this particular version of the Q Plus is something that many people are, pretty excited about, at least, just from my Instagram. Thanks so much to Ben for loaning this to me for review. I would otherwise never be able to get my hands on this. These knives are, they're custom. There's some CNC in them, but they are custom. If you take a look at his website, which I'm going to encourage you to do, you'll see a wide variety of different models. Some are, much newer, some are much older, but he works with a wide variety of different materials, as far as like inlays, things like that. His blades, I think he primarily uses CTS XHP, which is what this is, but, I've seen some razor wire Damascus and some Damasteel, I think, and some other things, right? It's kind of, what you would expect from a custom knife maker. He works with a wide variety of things, so that's really interesting. This particular one is CTS XHP and a beautiful, beautiful oil slick zirconium inlay that has been textured. Very cool. I'm going to start this off by saying this is somebody who, their knives go very quickly. When he attends a show, his tables are usually cleared very quickly. If you are interested in his knives, probably your best bet is to contact him through the website, or I would say definitely follow Richard Rodgers on Instagram just to take a look at his stuff, but that's going to be the best way. This isn't a knife that is just, laying around and, there's not like hundreds of them laying on shelves waiting for people to buy them. These go very quickly. Table prices apparently for the standard Q are somewhere around $1,200, but it is not rare at all to see the standard Q, or especially the Q Plus, go for up to about $3,000, maybe a little bit more than $3,000. So I don't know exactly how much the gentleman who loaned this to me paid for this, but just so you know, there's a wide range. Oftentimes, when we're talking about custom knives, it's not just what they are made out of and where they are made and whether or not they're custom, but it is also pride of ownership and exclusivity. These things are just really hard for people to get their hands on, but they are obviously very, very popular. So do with that information what you will. Let's go ahead and get into this. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me. And please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. I'm about to drop that. Let's go ahead and measure this knife. This is more of a show and tell. It's when we talk about custom knives on this channel, I don't generally do a traditional critical review. More of just a show and tell, letting people know that these exist, in case you were wondering. Overall length of the Q Plus coming in at 8 inches. Blade length is exactly 3.5 inches, and your cutting edge is just shy of 3.5 inches. How about some size comparisons up against the Ontario Rat Model 1 and the Ontario Rat Model 2? You can see here that this knife definitely is kind of in between. I think a lot of people are, going to point out that, that it's a generic profile, which I want to be very clear about. This is, very beautiful and unique in its own way, but the general profile of the knife might be familiar to a lot of people, especially, new people are going to say, that looks like a copy of this or a copy of that. This is a very textbook knife profile. So it's not a copy of anything, and any passing resemblance of anything that's available now in 2022, that is likely bearing resemblance to not just hundreds of, probably thousands of models that have existed in the knife world. It's like I always say, when people say that's a copy of the Bug Out, it sounds really snobby, but it always makes me roll my eyes, because the Bug Out is hardly an original profile, right? Or the Elementum, hardly an original profile. But the unique characteristics of this knife are in the fine details, which, believe me, we're going to talk about. How about up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3? Long, slender, closer to the size of the PM2, but, just still much more compact than either. And then I think, up against there's the Demco AD 20.5. And last but not least, let's go ahead and do the Ritter Hogue, the Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue, and the Benchmade Bug Out. You see what I mean here, right? Knife profile, right? Dictionary definition, knife profile. How's the action? Oh, goodness, it's very good. This is it's a frame lock with zirconium overlays, and it is super duper smooth. Very easy to deploy. The primary means of deployment with this knife is a long fuller. So it's easiest, at least for me, to just get my fingernail underneath it and kick it out. And boy, is that satisfying. It's really, really nice. The fidget factor on it is great, but also just the general utility of it is great. It might be a little bit hard, like if you're, let's say you're somebody who is going to seek one of these out and then actually carry it. Might be kind of hard to manipulate it if you are wearing gloves, but for just day-to-day general use, if you're gonna do that, no judgment. I mean, whoever picks these out, like if somebody owns this, like what they do with it is their own business, right? So definitely designed to be used, but I would say designed to be used with a bare hand and somebody who is familiar with this type of manipulation, right? But it does that extremely well. It's designed perfectly for that. So yeah, it's great. Let's go ahead and do a. Do I want to do a hardware check? I don't think so. No, I don't think I'm gonna touch my tool. Touch this with my tools. I think this is a T10, and then we've got T8 for these inlays here. And then, you know what? I don't think there are screws for this zirconium backspacer. I think that these are just floating pegs that probably fit into the scales, because otherwise we would see screws here. So I think that's pretty much it. I think that's kind of. I mean, how else would this fit with the pivot and then maybe with these pins back here? There must be some other piece back here holding it together. But you'll have to forgive me. I'm not going to disassemble something like this on this channel. I think it's safe to just proceed and say that the construction of this knife is simple in a way that is beneficial to the end user. If you were, someone who wanted to take this apart, you could do it with not just relative, but extreme ease. And I think that's, that's definitely the mark of a good design. If you're going to use it, regardless of how rare or how expensive it is, if it's easy to disassemble and put back together, then it's a good design. And that's what we have here. So yeah, no complaints. Weight. Obviously weight is going to vary. Zirconium is heavy, and these aren't massive inlays, but it's a fairly substantial amount of zirconium on a smaller knife. So this particular one might be a little heavier than what is common for his Q model. This guy's coming in at really, still not that bad. 3.77 ounces for 3.5 inches of blade. I would venture to guess that if these were carbon fiber inlays, which you can find, I mean, he does beautiful, like golf ball textured carbon fiber. God, I saw a picture of that one and I was like, man, you guys know I like continuous patterns on carbon fiber, on titanium, on zirconium. I just think it's beautiful. And his patterns, his texture patterns are just to die for. I would venture to guess that would shave half an ounce. If these inlays were carbon fiber, it might shave a third of an ounce to half an ounce off of the weight, making this even better, right? This particular one, the balance is a little bit butt heavy, and that's probably because of the zirconium, right? So the balance is about right here. But in hand, this thing just really feels like a nice, lightweight, compact, full-size folder, which is nice. I like zirconium enough that, I just really appreciate the look of it. It doesn't really bother me if it adds a little bit of weight. And again, in this case, we have 3.5 inches of blade and 3.77 ounces of overall weight. So I just don't really care that much. Let's go ahead and measure blade stock thickness. That looks to be, to me, about 140 thousandths, but I'm usually wrong. So let's find out. This is the reason for the tape on the calipers, if you've ever wondered. Yeah, I'm completely wrong. It's closer to 125 thousandths. Just can't. It's hard, right? You're just looking at the blade relative to the scales, and are the edges chamfered or are they 90-degree angles? I mean, right? I just listen to me trying to judge. Here's why I could accurately or visually calculate the. I just don't know what I'm looking at. All right, let's go ahead and talk about this knife. This is a very simple aesthetic that has a lot of details when you get up close. And yes, we're gonna get up close so we can look at this. Let me shine up this zirconium a little bit because it's got a nice oil slick finish to it, which you guys are probably, oh God, look at that. You guys probably know that oil slick zirconium is a new favorite of mine. Look at this. Look at my camera's like, I can't, I'm sorry, it's gonna kind of choke up a little bit here, and it's moving all over the place. But this is just beautiful. I love that the lines going diagonally this way, and then the smaller lines in between. Oh, my phone camera is just dying. The lines in between going at a different angle. This is so beautiful. Really, it kind of messes with your eyes too. The seating of the screws there also look good. The quality of the inlay itself and the transition from the titanium to the zirconium. I mean, the little, the tiny gaps are even on both sides or all the way around, really. So that's just wonderful. The finish on the titanium is also beautiful. Just a light tumbling and some nice chamfering around here. Love the pivot. What's a pivot? Pivot. I don't know. Do we actually have like a special finish? Right? It's like almost kind of blasting and then polishing and then blasting again on the pivot. Oh man, that is just really nice. We have, I don't know if this blade is glass blasted or what, but I'll let you kind of look at it up close. Either very fine tumbling or some, media, some very microscopic media that's being blasted on the blade. I don't know. My favorite part of the blade is how this fuller just ends. It looks like a katana blade. The fuller looks like a katana blade in and of itself. It reminds me of, makes me think of Leonardo's sword from Ninja Turtles. Really cool. Edges of this fuller it's a pretty sharp angle, but they are still knocked down enough that it's not going to annoy your fingers on manipulation. Corners here, again, same thing. You can see that line right there. It's nicely knocked down. Comes out to a fairly fine tip and a very thin cutting edge with a perfectly, oh God, that is just nasty sharp, perfectly even bevel. It's my understanding, and I might be wrong about this, so I'm sorry to Mr. Rodgers if I am incorrect about this. I believe that the inlays and the scales are CNC and that the blades are hand ground. Now, again, I could be wrong about that. That's I talked about this a little bit with the owner of this knife, and if I didn't say so, this knife will absolutely go back to the owner. This is not mine to keep. I wish it was, but it's not. That's what we believe, but we could be wrong, right? It's kind of, sometimes it's hard to get details about this kind of stuff. I make a lot of content, so I'm trying to keep up with my pace and get as accurate information as possible, and at the same time dedicate a little bit more time and research to knives like these. But just looking at it and feeling it out, I mean, the scales feel largely CNC, and the blade, it wouldn't surprise me if it's, if there's more of a machine process to it as well, but it also wouldn't surprise me if the blade is hand ground. In any case, the ergonomics are great in the sense that you have this nice, open, non-restrictive handle profile. And while it is flat here and then, chamfered, you might think that it would feel super angular. It's actually really comfortable. This is a really comfortable knife to hang on to. We have a sharpening tool here. Not something I'd put my hand in, but if you wanted to choke up a little bit, it's not uncomfortable to rest your finger right here and get right up behind the blade. The only thing that is in the cutting path is the fuller, and it's deep enough to where debris will probably build up in there if you're actually going to use it, but nothing a simple paper towel won't be able to handle after you're done. Clean off your knives after you use them, I think, is a just generally good advice. The entire aesthetic and flow of this knife is just freaking perfect. I would not alter how the position of his inlays. I would not alter, how the blade height is relative to the shape of the handle. It's just, Oh man, it just looks sharp, right? Physically and just aesthetically, it looks sharp. This is a good looking knife. A safe and generic profile with complexity in the fine details, which I love. I love it when somebody can take a simple profile and just add these little details. It doesn't have to be a rainbow batarang to look complex. It can have a nice, classy, simple profile that is, favors ease of manipulation and ergonomics, and then has the little details that custom knife enthusiasts appreciate and will definitely pay more money for. Absolutely. We have a zirconium, what I assume is a floating backspacer, and we have a little, it's a standoff, but it's far enough away from the blade that you could easily attach a lanyard right here. So yeah, there you go, lanyard people, if you're, really want to do that. The inside here, I believe, says Rodgers. Yes, it does. It says Rodgers. I don't know when this one in particular was made. I find it interesting that the Q is not listed on his website unless I'm just blind. He has a lot of different models, which makes sense if he's been making knives since at least 2002. Again, I fully expect to find out that he's been making knives much longer. It wouldn't surprise me if I find out he's been making knives since the 80s or 90s or perhaps even, I don't know. I don't know how old he is, but yeah, when I saw that there were 23 pages on Arizona Custom and the earliest date was 02, I was like, that doesn't surprise me. So there you go. This has a right-handed tip-up pocket clip that is nested or seated nicely in the titanium. Something I really appreciate here is that the pocket clip is short. I don't know who decided that all modern knives or just knives in general should have gigantic long pocket clips, but it's been this unnecessary trend for a long time. And honestly, one of the things that I appreciate about the Bug Out the most is that it has a reasonable pocket clip. And that's something that I appreciate about this this Q Plus as well. I love this. This pocket clip is excellent, right? The carry depth is great. That's all the more you're going to see. It's simple. It is a milled clip, and we have a drop and just a slight rounded bill. And even though this is textured and you can feel it, it's nice, it's slick. So this is not the type of texturing that's gonna tear up your pants. Sorry, the camera is just like, stop! The texturing's really messing with it. But it's beautiful. The clip is so simple, but it follows the curvature of the handle. It doesn't need to be anything more complex than this. It's an example of a perfect pocket clip. Like I said, this is a titanium frame lock. There is no steel lock bar insert, but we don't need it. I'm less concerned with the insert for the contact between itself and the blade tang, and I'm more concerned with it just having an over travel stop. In this case, the overlay, the zirconium overlay is the over travel stop, and yeah, it does that, right? The action, like I said, extremely smooth, very easy to operate. I believe the stop pin is internal. No, I'm wrong. It's right there. Deep shouldering, way over there. Look at that, how the fuller comes back and makes like an I, like a capital I right there. That's really cool. I like that. So deep shouldering there, absolutely zero blade play, up, down, left, to right. Zero pivot lash. And a nice click into the closed position with laser perfect centering. Oh God, I wish there was a production collab. There are a ton of models that he could easily, pitch to an OEM and say, hey, let's make a much less expensive and much, more easily attainable production variant of some of these. But I would like because I don't have, if you are going to chase one of these down, as far as I understand, one of your best bets is probably to go to a show that he's attending. And even then, it wouldn't surprise me if there's some sort of lottery involved where your name has to be drawn before you have the opportunity to buy one of his knives. But that's that's what you're going to have to, be ready to do if you want to get your hands on these. Or you can go on the secondary market and pay secondary market prices, which, as I mentioned earlier, are very high. I think you can expect to pay just for the standard Q anywhere from $2,200 to about $2,600, and then for a Q Plus, especially if it has an inlay material that people are after, like oil slick textured zirconium, you can probably expect to pay more. I think I've heard that something like this would go for $3,000 or possibly $3,000 on secondary. Maybe I'm overshooting it a little bit. It's hard to say because, again, people are not just after materials in this where this is the part that's kind of hard for people who, are either new to the knife world or they've just stayed in a specific parameter, right? If you're just used to spending $200 to $300 on a pocket knife and you can get titanium and M390 made in China for $200 to $300, right? It's really hard for people to contemplate why someone would spend $2,000 to $3,000 for something like this because their sense of value is based on materials alone. It's because of the maker, right? Number one, the quality of this, the overall execution of this is absolutely on another level versus your standard production, high quality Chinese knives. But also demand, availability and demand, because he makes these one at a time. He's not pumping out hundreds of them, one at a time. And then pride of ownership and exclusivity. Those things are, when you're, ask somebody who is a custom knife enthusiast, like what are elements that you value? Those are there. The materials alone are interesting, but it's only a piece of the puzzle. So this took me a long time when I was newer to the knife world. It took me a long time to understand. I remember it being frustrating. I remember being like, who would ever spend? Well, that question it's just, brittle chime in a windstorm. It doesn't even matter. Because it's not going to affect whether or not people, are interested in this territory or will pay. It simply is. It just progresses, right? I mean, if you're standing on train tracks with a wiffle bat, don't expect to stop a train. The train is going to go through you. It's what's going to happen. You can disagree with the train, right? You can try to reason with it, but that train is going to run over you and your wiffle bat, right? The wiffle bat representing the question of who would ever pay. This is very elongated, sorry. I want this. I don't want to spend that much money on it, but it doesn't surprise me at all that that's what they go for. I think it would be really cool to see a production collaboration, but it also wouldn't surprise me if Mr. Rodgers is not necessarily interested in that with this model. He has an executive and possibly a custom CEO. That's where I found out. I looked on his website and saw the executive and I thought, is this the guy who designed the CEO? And sure enough, he is. So he's done it in the past. Maybe he'll do it again in the future. This is gorgeous. I think a lot of people would very much enjoy it. But the design, this is a very expensive custom knife. The design heavily favors the end user. Whether or not people use it, it's up to them. They bought it. But if somebody were to use this, it would be a fantastic day-to-day user. It's got wonderful cutting geometry, great durable materials, and an awesome ergonomic profile with just a superb pocket clip. It's just fancy, man. This is something that I would carry in a tuxedo. It's just really nice. I think some people, maybe would prefer one a little smaller, and some people maybe even a little bit bigger, but the size of this guy is it's just beautiful. I'm extremely envious of Ben, just because he owns this. I just think that this is a spectacular custom model. But, maybe you can understand why I don't do reviews on this stuff. I mean, this is extremely expensive, unattainable, and, when we're talking about simple day-to-day utility, the same level of utility can be had for much less money. So, again, this is not why people spend this type of money on knives or why they seek to collect stuff like this. It's not because they are looking for, just the peak of, utilitarian function between materials and execution of said materials. It goes far beyond that. Really cool stuff, though. I'm very, very proud to have this on the channel where I can share it with you guys. There is a shockingly low amount of content on YouTube covering Richard Rodgers knives. Any other content creators watching this, I would urge you to try and get your hands on his work because holy crap, more people need to know about his custom work. I was shocked to see that, there was very little on YouTube. So anyways, make sure you follow Richard Rodgers Knives on Instagram. Check out his website, definitely worth your time. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do of course have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely More coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.